let's do Jujutsu Kaisen next.
Yo, first 15 seconds.
I am just going to go ahead and skip to the end.
Damn.
And not even talk about the fucking episode, because whoever is in charge of the music...
I figured you'd want to talk about that one.
Oh my fucking God. That ending is the best ending I have seen in a long... That's like the ending to Kekai Sensen, the first season.
Yes, yeah, I got that. Yes, because it's funky and people are dancing.
Yeah, it is, but that ending was also extremely popular because it was just like, it's so fucking stylish and cool. The music fits it perfectly. That acid jazz with the saxophone and the horns. It's just like, fuck, man. Like, I wasn't expecting that at the end of that episode. I mean, the episode was good. We will get into that. But that ending, like, MAPPA is really outdoing itself with this.
Yeah, they're killing it. You know what it means? It means that, like, they need good source material and good directors.
Yes.
Like, at the rest of the production, like, if I see MAPPA on like, future shit, like, I'm not even going to bother to do anything but just, like, look at who's writing it and who's directing. That's it. Because I don't have to worry about all the other technical parts of the production. It's going to be on point.
Yeah. Yeah, I had to get that out, y'all. Like, it was, I had that fucking song on repeat all day. I'm pretty sure my neighbors hate me, but I don't give a fuck. But yeah, the episode. So from the jump, Satoru was just... This shit was hilarious.
Gojo's the man. Gojo, I mean, like, I'm not into standing. That's not my thing. But when I started reading, like, within, like, a few chapters, I'm like, if this ever hits the big time, there's gonna be a lot. Like, Gojo is gonna be that dude to have to be standing over for a lot of people very quickly.
Even in the ending song, I'm going back to the ending. Listen, even in the fucking ending song, that nigga had a spotlight of like 20 seconds to himself.
He was killing it.
I was like, bro, what the fuck is with this shit? Okay, but yeah, he was so rude.
He was sitting on Itadori's ass
and still talking about the fucking the sweet, and he was like, "Oh yeah, the inside cream filling is the best part." And I'm like, "What?" Because in the last episode, we just saw Homeboy like take out that big ass monster with just like an arm swipe, like going up, and he literally is fucking with him right now.
He's playing around, just having a good old time.
Smiling, and he's like, all right, that's 10 seconds. And I'm like, oh shit, they really did say just 10 seconds.
Yep.
We got a background on who Homeboy is. Now that there are other fingers, like, they basically set the basis for Yuji's journey. Like, and I don't know.
And we haven't even gotten to all the first year students. Like, we've only met Itadori and Fushiguro. We haven't even gotten to fucking Nobara Kugasaki. I mean, we met her at the end of the first episode.
Oh, I already have a feeling she's probably, I don't know. I'm getting huge personality vibes from her. So I can't wait.
If you could like look across a lot of I love this series in general, and one of the reasons why I love it is that and this goes back to a theory and a complaint that I've had for like pretty much the last 5 or 10 years of my interest in anime broadly. We're at the point now where a lot of the stuff that's getting created today is made by people who grew up on the things that we all saw when we were children. So we're talking like anyone who's like 30 to 40 years old, they are all influenced by, you know, things that were coming out in the late 90s and early 2000s.
Yeah, Outlaw Star, Shampoo, shit like that, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So one of the things that I started to notice when I was thinking about it was, if you go 10 years forward from things like Dragon Ball or that, you know, that was like late 80s, early 90s, or 10 years forward from the last big three, One Piece, Naruto, Bleach, that stuff. The 10-year gap is a window where anyone who's being affected or is or drawing inspiration from that stuff, they're drawing from it in the way that you would draw from a contemporary, which is to say that you see what's working and then you try to like copy that thing, and it hasn't like marinated in a particularly good way, and so you get a lot of stuff that's like, when we say derivative, everything is derivative, but specifically we're talking about like this, an element looks like it's lifted directly out of another thing and simply placed into a story, placed into a production, placed into some art, whatever the hell that is. But once you start to get like 15 years, 20 years out from that stuff,
yeah,
the people who are referencing it are now referencing it with the knowledge of all the derivative stuff that came after that first 5 to 10 years of like hyper popularity. And it's kind of at that point where you go from simply pulling ideas that work from one place and sticking them somewhere else to like evolving, or in some rare instances fixing shit that was broken. And one of the things I felt like when I was getting into Jujutsu Kaisen is that Jujutsu Kaisen fixes a lot of the things that are broken about concepts that you can see the influence from prior years. And I say that in the sense that if you look even at what we know now in the first 2 episodes, they're setting up a 3-man exorcist squad.
Yeah.
If you look at the main characters and you were taking like a level 0 analysis, you'd be like, Yuji Itadori is Naruto, or
I was about to say, I was like,
or
yeah.
or whatever. Like Fushiguro is Sasuke and Kugisaki is Sakura. This is actually completely untrue. Number one, all these characters are totally different. Their motivations are different. Their personalities are very different, and the stories that they go on are very different. But if you just took that very level 0, like, look at them and you say, okay, what's similar about some of their personalities or presentations? It's, in my opinion, a lot of what is very typical about shonen is really typical about stuff that was copying the notes from like Naruto, Bleach, One Piece, and so on. Really more Naruto and Bleach because those were at the time way bigger.
Yeah.
This is not cribbing notes. Like Kugisaki is about as far from Sakura as like, a Victorian painting is from like some postmodernist shit. Like they are.
Oh, that is like, nice to hear.
Yeah, like you could in your head, if you weren't thinking very hard, think, okay, she's just gonna be a loud tsundere who does a whole bunch of the shit. Every character here is like weird in one little way, but they're motivated by things that actually make sense. And lastly, I'm just gonna credit that to the fact that the show is still kind of grounded in our shared modern reality. So it's not like a fully fantasy setting, and so that means that there's a lot that's relatable about these. That it's written to be relatable about these characters that really stands out, which is why Bleach works so well.
Bleach.
Before it went off the rails, because in the beginning it was very grounded in a early 2000s Japan with young adults who were dealing with problems about growing up and that were very like how do I make sure that I do well in school, get a job, find my direction in life, whatever. And when it got off into the fantasy shit, the character development fell away. That never really happens in, at least so far, in Jujutsu Kaisen. And then you could just take that same analysis and roll it off to like all the secondary characters and so on who are equally interesting, but still they feel like they could be real people.
Well, my thing that I'm interested in is that it seems like because the school isn't like huge, there's going to be time to focus more on like the supporting cast, or at least highlight them, as opposed to like, not to say that Naruto was like bad at that, but it was just like, there were so many niggas in his class and all them other groups. It's kind of just like, I mean, some people like eventually some people like shined and they were like, all right, they really like this nigga, so we're just gonna keep this nigga coming back. Or like either you're Rock Lee or you're Shino.
Right.
Like,
and that's also my point too, that structurally the story fixes a lot of problems that you find in typical shonen because of things like limiting the cast and the way in which certain characters are presented and strategically taking certain people out of the story, bringing others into the story, and being very judicious about where they decide to expand the world and the problems that they're dealing with. Even now, I would say if you're someone who wants to go and catch up on the manga and you charge ahead 100 chapters or whatever, you're still probably going to feel like you know everything that's going on. You can kind of follow what everyone's doing and what everybody's motivation is, because they don't bombard you all the time with like too much new stuff to take in, which is it's restraint. And when you see restraint, it could either mean that the person writing it doesn't know what to do, so they just don't do anything, or it could be that they have clearly thought a lot of it out, and therefore they feel confident that when the time is right, you'll get the update or the payoff, right? And you don't have to like water it down with like 10,000 different character designs and everything else. And some people can do that. Oda is capable of keeping in his own head like 5,000 plot threads and 5,000 characters. Oh my god,
yes.
He can do it, and so as a result, One Piece doesn't really suffer for it. In fact, it benefits because it looks very, colorful and interesting and, surprising. Mm-hmm. I would say that like there are other authors who are also able to do the same, and then there are those who cannot and yet make that mistake. And this, I don't think, falls down that trap, so
yeah,
whatever.
Speaking of Bleach, back to the ending. The ending, I can see this ending. I can see this ending in Bleach. And that was one of the things that I thought. Like, I was like, this is stylish ass shit. This is some cool shit. This is an aesthetic that I want to be in. Like, I want to see myself in that shit. Like, and that they did. Okay, but yeah, back to that.
Shit is
but
tight.
Yeah. Shit is but yeah, like when I saw that ending, I was like, this is some Bleach shit. Because even with the openings and the endings of Bleach, you can distinctly remember those like songs and those like animations from the openings and the endings, because they were just as stylish as the fucking show.
And they put you in a mood. Everything about the show puts you in a mood.
Yes. And I'm getting the exact same thing from Jujutsu Kaisen. Like that.
It's fixed. The comedy it's fixed Bleach. It's also, fixed Naruto.
You know fixed, what? That is exactly it. That is a great descriptor. The comedy, I love that. The fucking principal and the
was cursed, it Yaga Masamichi Yaga?
Yeah, man. When that motherfucker started hauling off on Yuji, I was like, this is.
When that thing showed his ass, he whooped him and then showed him his butthole. I was like, God damn.
I loved it. I loved the, basically, they were just like, nah, man, you can't. Basically, they challenged, like, his motivations immediately. Yes. And they were like, are you doing this for the correct reason? Like, not are you doing this because someone told you so and you feel obligated. Why are you doing this? If it's not a good enough reason, then you don't need to be doing this shit at all. I love that.
I love when characters make good points that stand whether or not you believe the universe they're in is real. Like when Yaga says to Itadori that like if you die with a bunch of regrets, like you'll just wind up cursing your grandfather, right? So like you walking in here saying, "Oh, I'm doing this for his sake," or whatever. In a normal anime, that would be enough, right? Like it would be enough to be like, X person died and I'm gonna save the world because I don't want anyone else to die like that, and they would have left it there. They immediately went in like, hold on a minute. That's like a nice, shonen protagonist bullshit thing to be doing. But in reality, you don't know if you're not going to get fucked up and die horribly. Yeah. Like, we've already described to you that like the risk for this, even for regular people, is fucking insane. I think, what did Gojo say? He was like, it's a good thing if they find a body like hacked up beyond recognition. So that means there's far worse shit that can happen, and you're about to jump into this world because like your granddad said be a good dude. Like that was enough to maybe like get involved, but in order to make what's going to happen to you afterwards is going to take much greater resolve than just like because some dude told you to do it. Yes. So they right off the bat challenge him and actually force him to relinquish what we would have thought is like the major character development of the first episode and dig deeper into something that actually makes sense. And in fact, what he gets to is an evolution of something he already said that he believed, which is people deserve the right to choose how they die.
Yeah.
So he has chosen the way he wants to die, and as a result of choosing that thing, then his further decisions make sense. They are each idea logically follows from the next one. It's not just like, the power of friendship or like some other bullshit. Like, this is a deep ingrained ideology that this character is going to follow throughout the series, and he's going to run into other characters who don't agree with him. So therefore, there's your clash. It'll inform who he likes and who he doesn't like, which enemies he merely is fighting for, linear reasons versus the ones that present like some kind of existential threat. But it won't be an existential threat to like the end of the world, because no one says that like Sukuna, the fingers existing is not going to like cause the apocalypse. Yeah. Right? Like that's not even how they set it up. They even kind of said like curses are just kind of like a fact of life. There's no difference between what we're doing with curses and like a firefighter or like a doctor.
Also, it's like we're getting all this talk about Sukuna, but Sukuna probably ain't even the only like curse of that level out there.
There's other, now they make a point that like there were a few of the fingers that have already been consumed. By and it's obvious that that grants power. But even Gojo in the middle of the episode is like, Sukuna is the most dangerous thing that we've been introduced to, and then he's like, yeah, I could beat him.
Yeah.
At full power, I could beat him. So it's just interesting that they choose to do things that other lesser stories don't do, by sort of dissipating some of the threat, but then embedding the decisions of the characters in the real world or in real world motivations, which I really, 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 really enjoy about this. Because then the story can like not take on like delusions of grandeur. It's really just about the characters and the situations they're in directly, and not this like, silly.
We're to save the world.
Right. If it gets there, fine, but you have to like earn that. I hate when like you're just told from the beginning that like the stakes are either the characters fail and everything is destroyed, or they save the world. Because then it's like, okay, well then we're just figuring out how to get there. Whereas if it's a little less defined and it's more driven by like what these various characters actually believe in, then it is possible for like there to be other victory or failure states across the conflicts in the show that make things way less predictable, which I enjoy. So all that from 2 episodes of Jujutsu Kaisen, man, and we're about to get 24 episodes. It's a wrap. It's a fucking wrap.